Hey guys, tonight we ride. You're a Mongol mailman, yes, that's an actual thing. And your day starts well before the sun even considers getting out of bed. The felt walls of your yurt breathe softly in the cold pre-dawn air. And you're already regretting every single life decision that brought you here. Your legs are stiff, your breath comes out in ghostly clouds, and your horse, snoring softly nearby, looks about as thrilled as you are. Outside, the steppe is still a blanket of silence, broken only by the distant yipping of foxes and the occasional, deeply judgmental snort from another courier's horse. Your saddle waits where you left it, dangling from a crooked post like some kind of medieval gym equipment. You grab your padded boots, fumble into your sheepskin coat, and stretch muscles that feel like they've been pickled in vinegar. Reality check. You probably won't survive this job more than a few years. Between the cold, the wolves, and the small chance of getting impaled by a rebellious arrow somewhere near Bokhara, this mail route is not exactly HR approved. But hey, the Mongol Empire doesn't run on good vibes. It runs on speed, loyalty, and horses that don't complain. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from a cozy bed in, say, Melbourne, or maybe a couch in rainy Glasgow, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love to see where my sleepy history squad is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You emerge from your yurt, greeted by the kind of crispness that stings your lungs. It's the kind of morning that makes you feel like the wind has teeth. Your first task is to check the horse, not just any horse, but a stout Mongolian steed that looks like it was carved from wind and thunder. These horses are small, shaggy, and weirdly adorable, but don't be fooled. They can cross mountains with a scroll tied to their tail and barely blink. The message you'll carry today is sealed in dark beeswax and rolled into a tight scroll, probably destined for a noble's desk 3 provinces away. And no pressure, but if you lose it, you'll probably be reassigned to cleaning up after the falcons. You mount up and nudge your steed into motion, leaving behind the village and its smoke trails curling upward like lazy snakes. The sunrise finally begins bleeding over the horizon, casting everything in shades of amber and bone. Your breath mixes with your horse's as you trot toward the first checkpoint, a yam, or postal station, about 12 kilometers east. It's worth noting, the Mongol yam system is no joke. Think of it like Amazon Prime, but with more saddles and fewer delivery vans. Historians still argue whether Genghis Khan invented it from scratch or just radically optimized existing Silk Road networks. Either way, it's efficient enough to rival some modern logistics apps. Messages can travel thousands of kilometers in just a few days, assuming none of the couriers get frostbite or eaten. A quirky tidbit? These mailmen, like you, were often exempt from taxes and could commandeer resources from anyone. Which sounds amazing until you realize that if you abuse it, someone will report you, and the punishment is not a strongly worded letter. As the path narrows through a low gully, a hawk soars overhead, circling like it's trying to decide if you're breakfast. You mutter a few choice words under your breath. Not that they help. You adjust the strap across your shoulder, feeling the familiar tug of the leather pouch and the slosh of your waterskin bumping against your side. It's going to be a long, dusty, bone-rattling day. But you're used to this. You have to be. This job is half endurance, half invisibility, and 100% trust. You're the artery between cities, the silent current in the Mongol bloodstream, keeping the empire pulsing with information, orders, gossip, and the occasional birthday wish for a cousin in Karakoram. You pass a group of herders breaking camp, their kids chasing each other with sticks and giggles. One of them waves, and you lift a hand in reply, knowing you'll likely never see them again. The road is lonely, but it has its rhythm, its quiet sense of being part of something massive and invisible. And just as your stomach begins grumbling for something more than last night's leftover millet cake, you spot the faint shape of a structure in the distance. The first yam station. Smoke rises from its chimney, and the promise of a warm drink and a fresh horse is enough to make your sore knees forget how sore they are. You cluck your tongue. Your horse speeds up. You smile, sort of The Mongol sun finally finishes crawling above the horizon, warming the horizon in fire-orange streaks, and you're already an hour into the job. Only 14 more hours to go. The Yam station isn't glamorous, but then again, neither are you. It's a low-slung timber structure with thick walls and a felt roof, surrounded by a few corralled horses and the kind of purposeful silence that only comes from people too tired to care. A stable boy, no older than 12, waves you in like you're royalty. You nod, dismount with a creak of your knees, and pass the reins to him as if handing over a national treasure. Inside, it's dim and smells like smoke, sweat, and dried goat. Honestly, you've known worse hotel lobbies. You head straight for the scribe's table. He's bent over parchment, lips twitching as he mumbles something in Mongolian that you're too polite to ask him to repeat. With the solemnity of a monk, he checks your delivery permit, makes a few notations with ink made from gallnuts, and stamps your itinerary with a wooden seal that looks older than the empire itself. You sign using your thumbprint, standard procedure, and are then handed a cup of arag, fermented mare's milk. It smells like a foot and tastes like a dare, but you drink it anyway. It warms your stomach, or at least distracts it. Your new horse is already being saddled. These Yam posts operate with military precision. Each one is part of a vast network. Tens of thousands of kilometers worth of outposts, horses, and riders. Historians still argue whether the Yam was strictly for imperial use or if wealthy merchants could bribe their way in. Spoiler, they could. Gold talks louder than loyalty in most corners of the world. While your next steed is being prepared, you sit on a low stool and briefly allow yourself to stretch. Your legs tingle in protest, and you're starting to wonder if your kneecaps have relocated somewhere near your ankles. A fellow rider arrives, panting, his cloak soaked in dew. He drops into a squat beside you and mutters something about a thunderstorm 2 stations south and a deer that charged him unprovoked. You nod sympathetically. You've been there. Last month, a marmot chewed through one of your saddle straps. You didn't even know marmots had teeth that aggressive. Or vendettas. A station guard offers you a slab of dried meat. Yak, probably, and you chew slowly, eyes on the new horse. It's a beauty. Sturdy, wide-hoofed, with a dappled coat and a temperament that suggests it won't throw you at the first thunderclap. A luxury. Outside, the other courier gags dramatically on his arag and accuses the cook of slipping in soap. The cook responds by throwing a ladle at him. You can't tell if they're enemies or lifelong friends. In the steppe, that line is usually blurry. Your name is called. The new horse is ready. You tighten the saddlebags, double-check your pouch for the message capsule. It's still there, snug and sealed, and swing yourself back into the saddle with a grunt that's mostly knees and disappointment. As you head out again, the wind picks up. It slices sideways through your coat and makes you question the thermal properties of felt. The guard at the gate raises a hand as you pass. You don't wave. It's not personal, just efficient. You ride east, the low sun now at your back, casting long shadows that gallop beside you. The horse adjusts to your rhythm quickly. Mongolian horses are like that. They don't care about your feelings, but they get the job done. Small, hardy, slightly judgmental, basically the perfect coworker. Every few kilometers, you see the worn remnants of older Yam markers. Posts carved with notches, sometimes wrapped in strips of faded silk. Superstition? Maybe. But there's a quiet, ancient magic to this road. You've heard that some couriers tie small charms to their saddles to ward off spirits. You carry a lucky coin in your boot, and you're not above whispering a few mantras when the wind starts to howl. A quirky tidbit? Mongol postal riders were required to memorize local geography down to the river crossings, grazing fields, and enemy clans' territories. If you took a wrong turn, there wasn't a GPS to bail you out, just a pack of wolves and your own terrible decisions. But hey, at least no one ever asked for your password. You cross a small stream and let the horse drink. The water is cold, clean, and so clear it reflects your haggard face like a guilty mirror. You splash some on your cheeks and blink away the sting. Ahead, the path splits. One fork toward a village, the other toward the next station, deeper into the wild. You don't hesitate. You take the path to the station. You know better than to stop. Behind you, the wind carries faint sounds, hooves, Perhaps another rider catching up, or maybe just a goat with ambition. You don't look back. There's still a long road ahead, and you're only 2 stations in. Just another 200 kilometers or so. You check the pouch for the 3rd time in an hour. Still there. Wrapped tightly in oiled leather. The message capsule swings slightly as your horse picks its way through a rocky slope. It's not just habit that makes you reach for it again and again. It's reverence. There's something almost ceremonial about it. The way it was handed to you this morning. The way the wax seal gleamed like blood under the morning light. You weren't told what the scroll inside says, and you're not supposed to ask. But still, you wonder. Maybe it's an imperial order. A message from the Khan himself, sent to some border lord 3 days' ride away. Or maybe it's a warning, hastily written and urgently sent, racing against time to prevent a siege, a death, or something much worse. Historians still argue whether these mail capsules were ever used to deliver coded poetry, assassination orders, or love letters. The answer is probably all of the above. You ride on, one hand never straying far from the pouch. The terrain evens out and you allow the horse to pick up speed. The thud of hooves against packed earth becomes a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat under your ribs. You lose yourself in the motion. You stop noticing the cold. You stop noticing the dust in your teeth. You just ride, until your thighs go numb. You shift your weight, still numb. There's a unique horror to the moment when you realize you no longer feel your own legs, but your saddle certainly does. Creaks and groans with every bounce, threatening to become your enemy at any second. Your knees lock, your back aches, and you begin bargaining with a higher power. If I survive this trip, I promise I'll eat less yak butter and stop flirting with the chief's daughter. But let's be honest, you won't. You pass a cluster of birch trees, their white trunks gleaming in the sun. A squirrel skitters up one and chucks something suspiciously nut-like at you. You narrowly dodge it. Honestly, the wildlife out here is way too bold. You take a short break, dismounting carefully. Your left leg flops uselessly as you land. The horse looks at you like it's embarrassed on your behalf. You stretch, stamp your feet, and flex your hands. Then, with a grunt and a string of words your grandmother would faint hearing, you hoist yourself back up. Onward. The wind shifts. You smell smoke before you see it. A few kilometers later, you pass what remains of an abandoned fire pit. Still warm, still ringed with fresh hoofprints. Bandits? Scouts? Another courier ahead of schedule? Hard to say. Your fingers tighten around the reins, and your eyes dart toward the horizon. The Mongol Empire may be vast and organized, but the world outside it is still sharp-edged and full of shadows, which is why that pouch matters so much. You're not just a guy on a horse with a satchel. You're the artery that keeps the empire alive. A quirky tidbit? There were instances where the message pouch was chained to the courier's body, literally. Some wore it under their shirt, around the neck, or even had it stitched into the lining of their coat. One unlucky fellow reportedly hid a scroll inside his boot for 5 days. He delivered it, with trench foot. You wouldn't go that far, but you'd definitely bleed a little for this job. You already have. A sharp cry breaks your thoughts. You squint into the sky. There, a falcon circles, calling out again. Not uncommon. The Mongols love falcons. Some clans even use them for hunting. There's a rumor that certain elite couriers train birds to follow them across regions, using them to signal arrival or warn of danger. You haven't seen it, but you don't doubt it. In this job, you learn quickly that there are more things in heaven and steppe than are dreamt of in your training scrolls. The trail dips down into a narrow pass. Your horse hesitates. You listen. Nothing. But you still feel watched. You pat the pouch once, then urge the horse forward. You won't stop. Not until the next station, not until the scroll is out of your hands, not until someone else has to worry about what it says. You're the invisible thread between power and distance, between command and action. The parchment tucked against your side might be dry, but it's soaked in consequence. You lean forward, whispering to your horse. Just a few more hours. Just a few dozen kilometers. Then maybe, just maybe, you'll get a break. Or at least a saddle that doesn't squeak like a dying duck. By midday, the heat starts to trick you. You're high enough in the steppe for the air to stay sharp, but the sun's glare bounces off the dry grasslands like a personal insult. Your coat feels suddenly overambitious, and your water skin is already half empty. You tug your scarf lower, breathing in dust and horse sweat. At this point, you and the saddle might as well be one fused organism. And yet, despite the creaking of leather, the knots in your back, and the silent pleading of your spine for a new profession, you keep riding. The terrain flattens out into a stretch of open plain, the kind of place where you can see your own future in the distance, and it's just more dirt. But here's the secret. This part of the job is almost meditative. Your thoughts slow down. The rhythm of hoofbeats becomes your lullaby. The landscape, monotonous to outsiders, reveals its own quiet symphony. Humming insects, wind whispering through the weeds, the occasional crack of a twig. You're in the heart of the steppe now, and it's both enormous and eerily intimate. You feel small but oddly powerful. There's a reason Mongol mailmen were so respected, even feared. You move between khanates, crossing war fronts, tribal borders, and sacred lands with no one daring to stop you. The imperial peza, a metal medallion you wear at your belt, grants you access to supplies, fresh horses, and safe passage. Historians still argue whether some couriers abused the badge for power or if its magic truly kept bandits at bay. Probably both. Human nature, after all. Up ahead, a smudge on the horizon. Another rider. You squint through the heat shimmer. He's moving fast, too fast. He's either behind schedule or outrunning something worse than time. You slow slightly, letting him pass at a safe distance. He doesn't glance at you, just flies past like a rumor on the wind. You wonder if he's carrying something more important than you. Then again, you wonder if he thinks the same. The Mongol relay system wasn't built for comfort, it was built for continuity. At peak operation, tens of thousands of messengers like you traversed these same routes, connecting the empire like a web spun in horsehair and ink. A quirky tidbit? Genghis Khan supposedly said that a man on horseback could gallop from one end of the empire to the other without fear. You're still testing that theory, and you still have your doubts. The horse's pace falters. You feel it immediately, the shift in gait, the dip in energy. You lean forward, murmuring soft encouragement, checking the saddle straps. Everything's in place. But the animal's rhythm is telling you what its mouth can't. It's tired. And honestly, so are you. You spy a cluster of boulders ahead, some of them casting decent shade. It's not an official stop, but you've learned to grab rest where you can. You dismount slowly, your legs protesting like badly tuned violins. The saddle creaks. Again. Still. Forever. You stretch in the shade, popping joints that weren't meant to pop. You check the message pouch again, even though you already know it's there. Still sealed. Still unread. Still heavy. You uncap your water skin and sip. Then, after a guilty moment of hesitation, you tip a splash of it into your horse's mouth. He snorts, nuzzles your sleeve, then takes a step back and drops something unceremonious onto the grass. Nature. Beautiful. You sit on one of the rocks, chewing a strip of dried cheese that tastes like regret. The sky above is endless, pale blue, dotted with a few puffy clouds that look like they're just loitering for fun. You wonder what it would be like to float like that. No saddle, no pouch, no aching joints. Just drifting. Lazy. Light. But no. You're built for ground, not sky. You remount, tugging gently on the reins, and the horse grudgingly obeys. The road curves, descending into a shallow valley dotted with shrubs and the occasional cluster of yurts far off in the distance. Smoke rises. You resist the urge to ride over, to beg for a meal, to tell your story. You're not supposed to talk about your deliveries. Even if you knew what they said. The pouch taps against your side again. You ride on. You start whispering nonsense songs to yourself, just to stay awake. Something about a man who tried to race his goat and lost both the bet and his pants. It's not historically accurate, but hey, it rhymes. The sun dips just slightly, still hours before the next station. And your legs? Yeah, they've gone completely rogue again. There's something sacred about suffering quietly. That's what you tell yourself, anyway. And maybe it's true. Maybe this job isn't just about messages or medallions or endurance. Maybe it's about faith in a system, in a purpose, in the idea that what you're doing matters even if no one sees it. Even if no one says thank you. You dig your heels in gently. The horse picks up speed. And once again you disappear into the dust. It's mid-afternoon now, and the landscape has shifted again. The flat plains give way to rolling grass hills, dotted with wildflowers and scraggly patches of brush. Your shadow follows at an angle now, long and wavering, like it's just as tired of this journey as you are. But something clicks in your chest as you crest a rise and see the next yam station in the distance. It's a familiar shape, a squat building made of stone and wood, surrounded by a rough stockade and a half-circle of tethered horses dozing in the sun. You exhale. Not quite a sigh, not quite relief, but something. The station master meets you outside, squinting at the horizon behind you like he's expecting a horde to follow. He's tall, wrapped in a heavy robe that flaps in the wind, and his beard is the kind that earns you instant credibility in at least 4 provinces. You dismount and hand off the reins. He grunts, nods, and gestures you toward the low door without a word. That's the great thing about this job. No one ever asks how you're doing. They already know. Inside, the air is dense with the smell of horse sweat, stale tea, and parchment. You hand over your travel token, confirm the next route on your itinerary, and refill your water skin. The pouch on your belt remains untouched, the seal still intact, the message still humming with imagined urgency. You're just about to ask for something vaguely edible when you hear it. Hoofbeats behind you. Another rider, breathless and spattered with mud, storms into the station like a thunderclap. He's younger than you, but with the wide eyes of someone who's seen things. Without a word, he slaps his own scroll pouch on the table and collapses onto a stool, panting like he outran a comet. You trade glances. He nods once. No one asks anything more. The station master pours tea into 2 mismatched bowls and slides one across to you. You sip cautiously. It's bitter, oversteeped, probably boiled 3 times. But it's warm and it doesn't taste like leather, so you call it a win. Over the next half hour, riders come and go. Some exchanging messages, others resting, one trimming his toenails in the corner with a curved dagger you really hope wasn't used on anyone else first. You eat a small dumpling that's 90% dough and 10% mystery meat and chew slowly, pretending your jaw doesn't hurt. Then you hear something. A laugh. A full, genuine, belly-deep laugh from one of the older riders as he leans back in his chair, recounting a story about a delivery gone wrong in the Gobi Desert. Something about a sandstorm, a lost goat, and a foreign merchant who couldn't stop sneezing. You smile before you can stop yourself. It's easy to forget that even in this system, this machine of riders and seals and scrolls, there's humanity tucked in the folds. These people, like you, keep history stitched together day by day, letter by letter. They aren't in the chronicles, but they're the reason the chronicles exist. And then someone mentions the yam. Not this station, but the yam system as a whole. A traveler with a Persian accent leans in, fascinated. It's like a spiderweb, he says, voice low. From Korea to Hungary. A man could cross the world if he had the right badge. And he's not wrong. The Mongol yam system is arguably one of the most impressive communication feats of its time. Historians still argue whether it influenced later European postal structures or if it was too alien for the West to even grasp. But you know this, it works. Every scroll, every pouch, every exhausted rider. It all flows through invisible veins across the empire. And you, in your dust-covered coat and aching joints, are one of those veins. You rinse your bowl, stretch your arms, and gather your gear. Your horse is ready. A new one, fresher, sleeker, eyes sharp and tail flicking like it's already annoyed with you. You mount up, give a nod to the younger courier, still rubbing his temples, and head back out into the wind. The path ahead is wide, open, and sun-bleached. You nudge your steed forward and glance once at the message pouch. Still there, still sealed, still waiting. Not 10 minutes into the ride, and your left eyelid starts twitching. Classic. Blame it on the sudden brightness, the leftover bitterness of that tea, or the fact that the new horse apparently trained at the Mongol school of dramatic trotting. Every step feels like a personal grudge against your spine. You shift in the saddle, adjust the stirrups, try sitting forward, backward, side saddle, nothing helps. Your entire body has declared war on the concept of movement. Still, you keep going. You pass another group of herders, this time with a caravan of shaggy camels ambling in slow, deliberate chaos across the trail. One of them makes prolonged eye contact with you, and for a moment you feel judged. Deeply, existentially. The air smells like dry grass and something slightly burnt. You scan the horizon, then spot it. A thin column of smoke, barely visible against the sky. Could be a signal fire. Could be a campfire. Could be someone burning yak dung for warmth. Around here, the difference is mostly academic. You ride on, and soon the terrain grows wild again. No signs of roads, just intuition and hoof-worn trails. You follow a line of low hills, dodging scrub and lumpy patches of earth that might be molehills or ancient burial sites, depending on your mood. That's when you hear it. A sudden whoosh above your head. You duck reflexively, too late to avoid a splatter of something. Bird poop. Warm, fresh, generous. It decorates your right shoulder like a badge of cosmic sarcasm. You look up, just in time to catch a hawk, majestic and wildly indifferent, circling back toward the cliffs. Wonderful. You mutter something about divine humor and reach for a rag from your saddlebag. The horse doesn't slow down. Of course not. He's not the one with a surprise accessory. Birds aren't the only issue, though. The path tightens, snaking between large boulders. It's the kind of place you'd ambush someone if you were the ambushing type. Your hand slides toward the small dagger hidden beneath your coat. Not out of fear exactly, but muscle memory. Bandits aren't common, but they're not fiction either. You pass an old tree scarred by weather and time, its limbs twisted like a witch's hands. A few scraps of red cloth are tied to its branches, offerings or warnings. Historians still argue whether these trees were sacred markers or just local superstitions layered over time. Either way, you keep your eyes forward and your speed steady. The silence out here feels different. Thick, then a rustle. To your right, your horse's ears twitch. You tense. Another rustle closer. Something moving in the tall grass. Not fast. Heavy. You stop the horse, heart suddenly louder than hoofbeats. You scan the brush, hand tight on the reins, other hand near your blade. And then it emerges. A pig. Just a pig. Muddy, unimpressed, and deeply uninterested in your emotional journey. You exhale, half a laugh slipping from your lips. The horse snorts, possibly in judgment. You both move on, dignity dented but intact. Still, you stay alert. You've heard the stories, everyone has. Couriers disappearing without a trace. Stations burned. Scrolls gone missing. A haunted tree 2 days ride south where no birds ever land. You don't believe half of it. But the other half lingers. A quirky tidbit? There was once a Mongol courier who, when captured by enemy scouts, supposedly swallowed the imperial message whole. Survived. Delivered it. Retired. Opened a noodle shop. Probably apocryphal, but you'd eat there. The light starts to shift. Subtle, golden. The sun lowering its shoulders. And ahead, thank the ancestors, another way station. This one's built into a low ridge, half buried in stone. It looks like a place forgotten by time, guarded by vultures and boredom. A single flag flaps limply from a crooked pole. You approach with caution. No guards visible. No smoke. You call out. No answer. You dismount and tether the horse loosely, walking forward, hand near your belt. The silence clings to you like a second coat. You push the door open, creaking of course, and step inside. Empty. Just some old bedding, a broken bench, and a pot of something moldy in the corner. You check the logbook on the table. The last entry is 2 days old. Strange. You don't linger. You refill your water skin from the basin out back and ride on, nerves tingling. Not fear, just awareness. An understanding that not everything in this empire, this world, is neatly ordered. Even a system like the yam has cracks. As the light fades and the wind picks up, you wrap your scarf tighter, checking the pouch again. Still sealed. still warm against your side, still heavier than it looks. You ride faster now. Something about that abandoned station stays with you. Something not quite right. The next Yem station appears like a promise stitched to the edge of the world. Low, squat, almost part of the earth itself, with smoke rising from its chimney in a lazy corkscrew. You don't let yourself relax just yet. After the last empty outpost, you've learned not to trust anything until it's chewing, talking, or swearing at you. As you approach, a figure steps out, broad-shouldered, arms crossed, with a face that could be carved from cold mutton. He watches you without blinking. You nod. He doesn't nod back. But he does step aside, which, in courier speak, is basically a bear hug. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of old spices, soot, and something that might have once been meat. A pot bubbles lazily on the fire. Someone hums a tune off-key in the corner. You take a seat on a worn rug and try to stretch your hips without crying. You're greeted by a cook, an older woman with the terrifying energy of someone who's been awake since the Bronze Age. She ladles out a bowl of something steaming and utterly unidentifiable. You take it. You do not ask questions. You eat, and then comes the arag. Again. Always the arag. Fermented mare's milk isn't something you ever get used to. You just stop fighting it. This batch is stronger than usual, sharper, more vinegary. It might be curdling your soul. You sip anyway, partly to be polite, mostly to prove you still have a stomach. A handful of other couriers are already gathered around the fire. One's sharpening a blade that's more rust than steel. Another's picking mud from his boot with a twig. The last, an older man with one eye and a voice like crushed gravel, gestures for you to sit closer. He's telling a story, and you recognize the ritual immediately. Station gossip. Tonight's tale? Something about a courier who took a shortcut through an abandoned fortress and never came out the other side. Some say he ran into ghosts. Others say he found treasure and decided never to return. But the best theory comes from a rider with wild hair and too many teeth, who suggests, dead serious, that the man was eaten by his own horse. No one laughs. You sip your arag slower. This is the unofficial part of the job, but maybe the most sacred. Every station is a node in the web, but it's these stories, shared in low voices over bad food, that keep the network human. You trade a few tales yourself, nothing fancy. Just a near miss with a lightning strike, and that time a goat tried to eat your saddlebag. Instant credibility. A quirky tidbit? Mongol couriers often carried carved tokens representing their clan or route. These could be passed down, sometimes traded, sometimes stolen. The toothy courier shows off his, a chipped wooden horse with one missing leg. He claims it saved his life once. No one asks how. The station master eventually enters with a scroll, checks the seal on your pouch without touching it, and nods approvingly. You ask casually about the last station, why it was empty, why the logs were out of date. He frowns. Bandits, maybe, he mutters. Or deserters. Sometimes messengers don't make it. Sometimes they do. And leave anyway. You leave it at that. You help gather firewood, swap more rumors, and try not to fall asleep too fast. But eventually, the warmth of the fire, the dull buzz of arag, and the ache in your joints all pull you down like gravity. You're shown to a corner behind a wool curtain. The bedding is rough and the pillow smells like wet dog, but it's horizontal and that's all you need. As you drift off, you hear the crackle of firewood and someone humming that same off-key tune again. Then the whispers begin. Not sinister, exactly. Just low conversation. Riders murmuring about strange sightings in the north, an imperial courier who vanished near the river, and a peza that was found without its owner. You hold the message pouch close, wrapping your arms around it like a child might hug a stuffed animal. It's a weight, yes, but it's also a shield. Your dreams that night are odd. You're riding, but your horse is made of paper. The scroll in your pouch hums like a wasp. The sun stays fixed in the sky, unmoving. And behind you, someone is always just about to catch up, but never does. When you wake, it's still dark, and someone is standing over you. You jerk upright, heart hammering, but it's just the one-eyed rider, offering you a cold dumpling. Morning, he croaks. Storm's coming. You eat without speaking, because he's right. The wind outside has shifted, and today's ride is going to be different. You leave before sunrise. The one-eyed rider gives you a nod, nothing more. You return it, already adjusting your saddle and cinching the pouches tight. The horse, a pale gray gelding with a sour personality and excellent hooves, stomps once as if to say, let's get this over with. The sky is heavy, not dark, not light, just expectant, like it's holding its breath. You ride fast, hoping to outrun whatever's brewing above. The first drops come an hour in. Not big ones, not dramatic, just enough to soften the trail and raise that familiar, earthy smell. Wet grass, damp leather, and something older, buried in the dirt. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders and lower your head. Raindrops find their way down your collar anyway. Of course, the scroll pouch stays dry. Always. A few kilometers later, the drizzle becomes a downpour. And now it's a fight. The wind lashes sideways, your horse lowers its ears, and your hood keeps blowing back like it's personally offended by your skull. The terrain is muddy, treacherous. You keep one hand tight on the reins and the other protectively over the pouch, which seems to pulse with added weight now, like even it is aware the conditions are a little ridiculous. Still, you press forward. Because what else is there? Historians still argue whether Mongol couriers were selected for their bravery or simply their tolerance for bad weather. Either way, today is a proving ground. You're soaked through in minutes, your boots squelch, and your knuckles are turning the color of regret. But you keep going. Because rain doesn't stop news. Messages don't pause for mud. The empire rides on, and so do you. You reach the edge of a small ravine, too steep to cross directly. You trace its rim for nearly a kilometer before finding a narrow causeway. The stones are slick, the incline steep. You dismount to lead your horse across. Bad idea. Halfway down, your foot slides. You stumble, catch yourself on the reins, and the horse jerks backward, nearly dragging you with it. You steady, both of you, heart pounding. That was close. Too close. One bad fall, one snapped leg, and you're just another unmarked grave in the steppe. The scroll pouch thumps against your chest with each step. Steady. Insistent. You whisper to yourself. Little things, not prayers exactly, but close. Rhythms. Riddles. Snatches of poems you learned as a child. Mongol couriers were often required to memorize entire verses, riddles, and legal codes. Not because they'd need them, but because it kept the mind sharp and the memory sharper. And right now, your memory's the only warmth you've got. What has no voice but speaks, no legs but runs, no mouth but devours the world. The wind answers with a slap of rain across your face. Rude. You make it across the ravine with soaked boots and a grateful horse, then remount and push on. The rain finally eases by mid-afternoon. The sky lifts just a little. You breathe again. Even the horse seems to loosen, shaking water from its mane and trotting more easily. Your fingers are still pruned. Your knees still ache. But you're moving. And that's something. You stop under a low outcrop to dry out. Barely a break, just enough to wring out your sleeves and chew on some stale barley bread. Tastes like clay but fills the hole. You check the scroll pouch. Still sealed. Still flawless. Still maddeningly mysterious. A quick aside. Some imperial messages were sealed not just with wax, but with special dyes, coated inks that only revealed their message when heated or exposed to salt water. A scroll like that in your pouch? Entire villages might rise or fall based on a single sentence. And you wouldn't even know if it said happy birthday or invade tomorrow. You sigh, resaddle, and ride again. Now the trail rises toward higher ground. Rocky hills, thorny shrubs, patches of wild lavender clinging stubbornly to the cracks. You catch a whiff of the flowers through the mud stink and almost laugh. Even here, where no one's looking, beauty still shows up, uninvited. You crest the ridge just as the sun begins to slip below the edge of the world. And there it is, your destination. A fortified outpost, stone walls, and a watchtower, tucked between hills like a fist in the folds of a cloak. The banner above the gate bears the seal of a regional Noyan, a lord with more horses than morals, from what you've heard. But it's where the scroll goes. You squint, eyes adjusting to the dying light, and nudge your horse down the slope. The wind behind you carries a faint whistle, almost a song. You ignore it. Probably just your nerves. Probably. The fortress gates grown open just wide enough to let you through. Two guards in layered leather armor step out, their spears held with the casual threat of men who've done this dance before. They don't speak. They just look you over. The soaked cloak, the mud-caked boots, the scroll pouch you haven't touched since sunrise. Then one jerks his head toward the main courtyard. You dismount, legs wobbling, and lead your horse inside. The courtyard is dim, lit by guttering torches that spit and crackle in the damp air. Soldiers move like shadows along the walls. A man sharpens a curved blade by the fire, dragging the whetstone with a rhythm that says, "Don't talk to me." Somewhere behind the gatehouse, a dog barks once and then goes silent. You tie your horse near the stables and take a breath. Then you approach the command post. You've done this before, but never here. Never this particular post, where rumors speak louder than facts, and facts tend to disappear into the dirt. You knock twice on the heavy door, wait, and knock again. A small, sliding panel opens. Two eyes, hooded, disinterested, glance down. "Courier," you say, patting the pouch. The eyes narrow. The panel slams shut. You wait. Then the door creaks open, and you're ushered into a low, smoky room with thick tapestries on the walls and a large iron brazier in the center. It's warm. Too warm. The kind of heat that doesn't invite comfort, it demands sweat. At the far end of the room, behind a wide wooden desk, sits a man dressed in fine robes and layered sashes. He's not young, not old either, but his eyes are like sharpened coins, bright, hard, reflective. He looks you over as though he already knows the contents of your pouch and is trying to decide whether you're worth unsealing too. You bow. He says nothing. You reach slowly into your coat, remove the message pouch, and offer it with both hands. He doesn't move. Not yet. Instead, he gestures to a nearby servant, a boy barely into his teens, with ink-stained fingers and a mouth pressed into a permanent line. The boy takes the pouch like it's sacred, then steps back behind a curtain. The Lord finally speaks. "How many days from Karakoram?" "4, you say. "With weather." He nods once. Then he asks the question that always comes next, softly, with just enough edge. "Anyone see you?" You pause. It's a trick question. They always ask, and they never believe the answer. But you give it anyway. "No one who matters." The Lord gives a faint smirk. "They all matter." He waves you toward the side table where a plate of dumplings sits, untouched. You hesitate. He insists. You take one bite cautiously. It's cold, but not bad. Potato and chive, maybe. Your first real food today that didn't taste like leather. Behind the curtain, you hear low murmuring. The scrape of wax, the unrolling of parchment. The scroll is being read, and you feel it in your bones. That sudden tension, that pause in the world. You've carried something for days, protected it like your own blood, and now it's gone. Not yours anymore. It's doing whatever it was meant to do, unleashing orders, threats, plans, or mercy. You're just the horse that brought it. But in that moment, the silence feels louder than any gallop. The boy reappears, says something low to the Lord, hands him the scroll. The Lord reads it again, slowly, then folds it once and tucks it into a sleeve. His eyes meet yours. Not angry, not grateful, just measuring. "You'll ride back at first light," he says. Of course. No one says thank you. You bow again and turn to leave. As you reach the door, he speaks once more, so softly you almost miss it. "Careful on the way home." You nod, because of course. Outside, the night has deepened. A stable hand shows you to your sleeping space, a stall beside your horse, with a pile of old wool and a dented cup of barley broth. You drink it in silence, then wrap yourself in the blanket and lean back against the stable wall. A quirky tidbit? Some Mongol couriers insisted on sleeping beside their horses. Said it kept the blood calm. Said the horse could sense if danger was near. You don't know if it's true, but you've done it every night since your first run. You close your eyes. The scroll is gone. But your next message? It's probably already waiting. Morning comes without asking your permission. No birdsong. No gentle sunlight. Just a nudge from a stable boy with a face like a boiled potato and the subtle whisper of rain returning. You sit up slowly, neck stiff, back a tragedy, legs worse. But you're alive and that counts. The horse is already saddled. Same one. Good. You trust this one now. Or at least you don't actively distrust him, which is the most a courier can ask. You eat a dumpling handed to you without ceremony and mount up. The fortress gates groan open once again. No one waves goodbye. There are no medals, no farewells, no curtain calls. You just ride out into the drizzle, heading northwest toward the next station, and whatever scroll you're meant to carry next. The road is familiar but reversed. Everything you passed days ago now looks different, somehow smaller, lonelier. You think back to the rainstorm, the haunted outpost, the one-eyed rider with dumplings and ghost stories. That's the thing about this job. Every stretch of road becomes a kind of ghost, half memory, half map. You ride on. Somewhere mid-morning, the clouds break, and the light returns. Not sunshine, exactly, but clarity. The hills stretch out in golden folds. You cross a stream, let the horse drink, and take a moment to check your pack. Empty. It's always strange, that moment after delivery. You've done the job. You're the artery that already pulsed. Now, for a little while, you're just a man with a saddle moving through space. Until someone hands you the next burden. Until someone seals another scroll and says, "Take this. Don't fail." The yam post ahead is smaller than you remember. Maybe you're just taller, or maybe time shrinks things. You arrive, dismount, and enter. The station master, an elderly man with a face like cracked parchment, recognizes you immediately. "Back already?" he asks. You shrug. "They don't like to let us rest." He chuckles without humor and slides a new scroll across the table. You take it, smaller than the last. Tightly wound, sealed with blue wax. No emblem, just a strip of rough silk tied around it. That's not standard. You glance up. The old man is already looking away, fiddling with something under the table. That's when you understand. This isn't just a scroll. It's something else. Something unofficial. But it's still yours to carry. Historians still argue whether couriers ever ran personal errands for nobles. Small favors disguised as empire business. Most say yes. Some say no. Everyone agrees it happened more than the records suggest. You slip the scroll into your pouch, mount your horse, and ride on. The wind is picking up again. So is the silence. A few hours later, you encounter another courier. Younger, fresh-faced, almost cheerful. He nods, waves, and says, "First scroll, from Karakoram to the coast." You give him a grin and wish him luck. He'll need it. Everyone does in the beginning. The next station is miles ahead, farther than usual. You press the horse harder, letting the hooves thunder across the open steppe. There's nothing like speed to remind you you're alive. The cold air whips at your face, and your eyes water, but your spine straightens. Your muscles remember what they're for. You're flying. A quirky tidbit? Some of the fastest couriers in the YAM network were able to cover over 200 miles in a day, thanks to relay horses, well-stocked stations, and terrifying amounts of fermented milk. You've never hit that number, but you pretend you have. As the sun dips, you see something odd. Smoke. Thin, black, steady. Rising from behind a ridge. Not a village. Not a station. Not right. You slow down. Let the horse pick its steps carefully. At the ridge's crest, you see the remains of a burned wagon. Charred wood, singed canvas, blackened wheels. No people, no animals, just ashes. You dismount. Carefully. There's no blood, no signs of a struggle, just the echo of something gone wrong. You circle once, twice. Then you find it, half buried in ash, a scrap of cloth marked with the imperial seal. Another courier, one who didn't finish the ride. You say nothing, just press your hand to your chest for a moment, then remount and ride faster. It's not superstition, the solidarity. Tomorrow, this patch of land will look the same to every traveler. But you'll remember, and if you pass another courier, you'll mention the wagon. Quietly, respectfully, and they'll know what it means. The road doesn't care about names. But you do. The wind is colder now, and the scroll in your pouch presses against your side, as if reminding you. Not every ride ends in a story. Some end in ash. The road ahead coils like a lazy serpent. Wide stretches of flat plain interrupted by low hills that rise like old bones from the earth. You settle into the rhythm again. It's always the same. Ride, check the scroll, check the horse, shift your legs, chew something stale, ride more. You begin to feel time in muscle aches rather than hours. The next Yam station comes into view just before dusk. It's larger than most, with 2 towers and a lookout platform strung between them. A Mongol banner flutters above it, stiff in the cold breeze. This one is heavily fortified. Important, then, or paranoid. You're never sure which is which. As you approach, a sentry signals your arrival. A second rider, already there, is brushing down his horse. He glances up, nods, then returns to his work. Inside the station, things feel strained. The air is taut, voices hushed. One of the scribes fumbles with the ledger. A kettle whistles too long before someone finally lifts it. You scan the room as you hand over your travel token. People avoid eye contact. Something's off. The station master finally appears. A woman with graying hair tied back in a severe knot and eyes sharp enough to carve a block of ice. She inspects your pouch from a distance. "Where's it from?" she asks, voice low. You name the outpost. She narrows her eyes. "Did they say anything?" You shake your head. "Just gave it to me." She holds your gaze a moment longer, then gestures toward the back. "Rest. Leave at dawn. No fires tonight." "No fires?" That's code. You've heard it before. It means we're not sure we're safe. You eat quickly, quietly. Steamed dumplings that taste faintly of charcoal, and curl up in the back room near a stack of horse blankets. The other courier joins you, young, nervous. He doesn't talk, just chews and glances at the door like it might bite. Eventually, you both fall asleep. But the night isn't silent. You wake once to the sound of hooves, several sets, approaching fast, then fading. You wait for shouts, for chaos, but none come. Just the creak of wood as someone checks the gate, then silence again. The scroll in your pouch feels heavier in the dark. You roll onto your side, hands still pressed to it. A quirky tidbit? During tense times, when rebellions simmered or borders shifted, some couriers were given false messages to carry, decoys to draw away attention from the real orders. Sometimes they knew, sometimes they didn't. You wonder, not for the first time, which one you're holding. At dawn, the sky is lavender and silver. Mist clings low to the ground, and your breath fogs with each exhale. You mount your horse and ride without saying much. The station master hands you a cloth bundle, supplies, and says only, "Avoid the river pass. There's movement." You nod. The road she points you toward is longer, but safer. Allegedly. By midday, you're deep into unfamiliar territory. Lowland stretches of thick grass, damp soil, and twisted trees that grow too close to the trail. Your horse moves cautiously here. So do you. Then, around a bend, you see it. A rider, slumped in the saddle, not moving. Your horse stops instinctively. You watch. Wait. The figure lifts his head slowly and raises one arm. You approach carefully. His horse is trembling, ribs visible, eyes wild. The rider's cloak is torn, stained. His face is gaunt. His left leg is twisted at an unnatural angle. "Courier?" he croaks. You nod. He reaches into his coat with shaking fingers and pulls out a pouch. Like yours, but worn, blood-stained, and still sealed. "Take it," he says. "Same destination." You dismount, take the pouch with both hands. It's warm. You slip it beside your own. He sags in the saddle. You catch him before he falls. The rest of the day is spent riding with 2 scrolls in your coat and a half-conscious man tied behind you. It slows you. It aches. But what else could you do? You reach a small way station at dusk, barely more than a shed, and bang on the door. A single keeper opens it. One look at the injured man and the pouch and he nods. No questions. Inside, you lay the man down on a cot. He's breathing, shallow and steady. You offer water. He takes it barely. The station keeper examines both pouches. Then he turns to you. You know what this means? You shake your head. He nods toward the fire. Someone wanted one of those scrolls to die out there. Maybe both. You sit back. The weight on your chest has doubled. And morning is still hours away. Sleep doesn't come easy. You lie on a bed of woven reeds beside the fire, one ear tuned to the ragged breathing of the injured courier, the other chasing every creak, every pop of burning wood. Outside, the wind presses against the walls like it's looking for a way in. You keep your hand wrapped around both pouches beneath your coat, as if holding them makes it all less complicated. It doesn't. The injured courier stirs in his sleep, mumbling something you can't quite make out. Names, maybe. Or places. One word repeats. A city you've never heard of. You make a mental note of it, though you know you'll forget it by sunrise. The station keeper doesn't sleep either. He sits by the door, blade across his knees, eyes sharp. He doesn't talk much, but he watches you. Not with suspicion, more like expectation. As if waiting for you to ask what now. But you don't, because you already know the answer. You ride. At first light, you secure the injured courier's pouch beside your own. Check the straps. Double-check the saddle. Your horse is restless, sensing the tension. The station keeper hands you a small clay token, etched with symbols you don't recognize. Give this to the next officer who stops you, he says. They'll know what it means. You don't ask what it means. You just ride. The landscape changes fast. Flat plains give way to brush-covered hills and winding paths flanked by gnarled trees. Birds scatter as you pass. The sun hides behind heavy clouds, and your breath fogs again. It feels like the steppe is holding its breath. Around midday, you hear hoofbeats. Fast. Approaching. You wheel your horse around just in time to see two riders crest a hill behind you. Cloaks fluttering, helmets glinting. Armed. Not yam couriers. They see you. You don't wait. You spur the horse and tear off down the trail, heart slamming against your ribs. The scrolls bounce against your chest with every jolt. Behind you, shouting. Steel on steel. A horn, low and guttural. Your horse pushes harder. Faster. This isn't a misunderstanding. They're after the messages. You reach a split in the road, left toward the next yam post, right toward a canyon. The left path is longer. Slower. You take the canyon. The horse stumbles once on the descent, rocks sliding beneath its hooves, but you keep going. The walls close in, and the echo of hoofbeats grows louder, disorienting. The path narrows to a spine of cracked stone. One wrong move and you'll fall. But you keep going, because the scrolls must go on. Historians still argue whether Mongol couriers were trained in evasive tactics or just relied on instinct and desperation. Either way, you're improvising now. Ducking beneath a fallen tree, you press low to the saddle and urge the horse through a shallow stream. You break into open land again, breathing hard. No sign of the riders. For now. You reach the next station well after dusk. It's a small one, 2 yurts and a stable. You dismount, hands trembling, scrolls pressed tight against your chest. A young woman greets you, eyes widening when she sees your coat, the pouch, the token. She leads you into a side tent, offers you hot broth, and begins sending messages with smoke signals. Coated puffs that vanish into the dark. Inside, you sit, and for the first time all day, you breathe. A quirky tidbit? Some yam stations had trained pigeons for emergencies, messengers for the messengers. You wonder if that would have helped back there. Probably not. Those riders didn't look like the type to be distracted by birds. The young woman returns with a clean set of clothes and a fresh horse outside. You'll ride through the pass, she says, handing you a scroll of directions. It's guarded. You'll be safe. Mostly. You glance down at the 2 pouches. One is slightly frayed, the other still sealed in blue wax. You tuck them both back under your coat and rise. The fire crackles behind you. Your limbs ache. Your head buzzes with the memory of hoofbeats, of stone, of wind. But still you ride. Because that's what you do. No matter who's chasing. no matter what the scroll says. You're the bridge between silence and order, between chaos and command. And the Empire doesn't sleep, so neither can you. You leave just before dawn again. The fresh horse beneath you is younger, springier, eager to move. Maybe too eager. You let it gallop freely across the soft terrain, past jagged ridgelines and frozen grass that cracks under hooves. Your coat snaps in the wind. The two scrolls, your burdens, your passengers, thud lightly against your ribs with every stride. You're not sure which weighs more anymore. The air is colder now, almost brittle. Your breath fogs fast, and your fingertips go numb despite the gloves. But your thoughts are clear, too clear. The path ahead winds through the guarded pass mentioned last night, and though the sun is beginning to warm the hills in soft gold, you feel it, the lingering danger. You approach the pass as the sky shifts from steel to blue. A guard stops you at the mouth of the narrow canyon, one of those stone-cut paths barely wide enough for two horses to pass without biting each other. He's young, eyes sharp, bow at his back. You show the clay token. He inspects it, turns it over once, then twice. Finally, he nods. They pass through, he says, motioning for you to continue. 3 riders. Didn't stop. Your gut tightens. They're ahead of you now. You ride anyway. The canyon walls rise like jaws. The wind tunnels through with a low moan that feels almost like a whisper. Go back. But you don't. You ride with one hand near the pouch and the other on the reins, eyes flicking to every ledge, every shadow. You pass a broken cart abandoned at the edge of the trail. No horses, no signs of struggle, just left. Maybe it belonged to a merchant, maybe to another courier. You don't stop to check. Your pace quickens. Then, just as the trail opens wide into open land again, you see it. A rider, alone, far in the distance, heading west. Same cloak, same pace. You recognize the horse. One of the men who chased you. He hasn't seen you yet. You pull off the trail into a thicket of crooked pines, heart hammering. You dismount silently, tying your horse to a low branch, and crouch in the undergrowth. You wait. 5 minutes. 10. Then hoofbeats. 2 more riders follow. One speaks, voice sharp, annoyed. They pause briefly, then continue, fading into the west. You don't move. Not yet. A quirky tidbit? In parts of the steppe, riders learned to silence their horses by feeding them small roots that dulled their senses temporarily. You've never tried it, but in this moment you wish you had. After a long silence, you remount and take the longer path south along the ridge, before swinging west again, keeping low, keeping quiet. By midday, you reach the last major yam post before your delivery destination. It's larger than any you've seen in days. Walls, towers, guards with polished armor. This is a royal post, not a frontier shack. You dismount slowly, legs stiff, nerves frayed. A group of officials meets you in the courtyard, flanked by scribes. You present the scrolls. The moment you hand them over, something shifts. One official takes your name. Another checks your travel record. A third inspects the pouches without opening them, then nods sharply. You'll wait here, he says. You're led into a private tent, canvas walls, warm rug, even a brazier with coals. Someone brings you tea that doesn't taste like old socks. You're even offered dried apricots. This is luxury now. You sit, sip, and try not to fall asleep on the first warm surface you've known in days. You overhear snippets from outside. Diverted route, disrupted relay, unauthorized pursuit. You hear your name once, twice, then silence. Finally, someone enters. A woman in deep maroon robes, hair braided with silver threads. She doesn't introduce herself. She simply says, "You were supposed to die in the canyon." You blink. She studies you. 2 decoy scrolls, she continues. Both reached us. That's rare. You wait. She pours more tea into your bowl. You'll rest tonight, then return east. No messages this time. Just eyes. You frown. Eyes. To see who follows. So it's like that now. Historians still argue whether the Yam network ever used its couriers as spies. Some say yes. Others insist they were merely messengers. But you know the truth, at least today. You drink your tea in silence. And when you lie down that night, the wind doesn't howl. It just whispers, something you don't yet understand, but will. You leave at sunrise. No scrolls, no pouch. Just you, a quiet horse, and the sharp command still echoing in your head. Just eyes. It feels strange at first. Riding without the pressure of a sealed message tapping your ribs like a ticking clock. You half reach for the pouch more than once before remembering. There's nothing there now. You're not carrying orders anymore. You're the order. The trail east is wide, smoother than the rougher canyon paths. The light is soft, washing the world in pale gold. Grass glistens with dew. Your horse's hooves thud against the dirt with quiet certainty. You pass herders, tents with smoke curling from vents, children chasing dogs, normal life. But you're not riding for normal now. You're riding for shadows. Mid-morning, you reach a fork in the road. One route follows the river, visible in snatches through the trees, its water slow and silver. The other climbs into hilly ground with better views, better cover, too. You take the high road. Old habit now, always see before you're seen. You stop at a ridge and scan the path behind. For an hour, maybe more, you watch. Nothing. Then movement. A figure far off, just a blip, but familiar. One of the cloaked riders or someone dressed just like them. You don't react. You mount up again. You ride on. At the next yam station, you don't declare yourself. You don't enter the station's records. You simply swap horses with a token handed to the stablemaster by a quiet man with an embroidered sash. No words. Just a glance, a nod. And you're off again. That's when it really sinks in. This isn't the job you started. You're no longer a scroll courier. You've become the message. There's a difference. You cross a wide valley by nightfall, the wind singing low through the grass. A quirky tidbit? The Mongol postal system once used dogs in areas too steep for horses. You think about that now, how even in the empire's most unreachable corners, the message had to move. Always. You camp under a crag near a burned-out tree that looks vaguely like a bear. Your horse stands beside you, not tied. He won't run. He's tired too. You watch the stars blink to life. Listen for hoofbeats. Hear none. Still, you sleep light. And in your dreams, you see paper birds flying over the steppe. Each one with a seal. Each one with your face. In the morning, you take a detour. It's not instinct. It's training now. Something you didn't realize they gave you. You head south for 2 hours, then double back along a dry creek bed, covering your tracks with pine boughs. You wait. Midday passes. Then you see him, one of the riders, alone, cautious, watching the wrong path. You ride wide around the bluff and cross back into the road unseen. That's the moment you understand something essential. This is no longer about the scrolls. Whatever you delivered twice unknowingly has rippled. And now you are part of the message's echo. And they're trying to contain it. You pass the burned wagon again. You stop this time. The ashes are cold. The soil blackened, but undisturbed. You kneel. Beneath a fallen board, you find it part of a broken courier badge. The metal bent, singed. The horse emblem still visible. You tuck it into your belt. It feels like a grave marker. Or a warning. The next yam post waves you through without pause. Message passed through. The guard says, not asking what yours is, because he already knows. You ride in silence for hours, tracking every crow overhead, every twitch of your horse's ears. It's not paranoia, it's routine. Even the trees feel like they're watching now. When you reach a rest point near an old burial mound, you pause. Dismount. Water the horse. Check your pack. Eat something dry and awful. And wait. You don't know what you're waiting for. A signal? A whisper? A reason? You get none of those. Just the wind shifting, bringing the smell of smoke from somewhere east. You remount and ride toward it. Because what else can you do? Because some messages aren't sealed in wax. They're carved into your ribs. The smell of smoke thickens as you ride east, clinging to the wind like an omen. It's not the clean smoke of hearth fires or cooking tents. It's heavier, greasier, the kind of smoke that speaks of scorched cloth and singed leather. You urge your horse forward. The reins slick with sweat. Yours or the horses? You're not sure anymore. A few kilometers later, you crest a ridge and see the source. Another yam post, or rather what remains of one, is blackened, hollowed. The roof has collapsed inward. Walls scorched. One horse, still tethered and wide-eyed, paws anxiously at the ground, its flanks streaked with soot. No riders in sight. No bodies either. Just aftermath. You dismount slowly. The air here is heavy. Still, you move through the wreckage one cautious step at a time. The fire burned hot and fast. Papers reduced to ash, saddles melted into twisted heaps. But near the rear, beneath a half-fallen beam, you spot a satchel. Charred but intact. You lift it, heart pounding. Inside, a scroll. Unsealed. You don't open it. You should. You want to. But you don't. Instead, you wrap it again tighter and tuck it beside your coat. Another message. Another ghost. Another path that's now yours to finish, whether it was meant for you or not. You leave quickly, not looking back. As the hills roll beneath your horse's hooves again, you start to feel something you haven't let in for days. Fatigue. Not in your body. In your mind. Deep, marrow-level tired. But you can't stop now. Not when so many haven't finished. You reach the final relay station by sunset. It's intact. Quiet. 2 guards on duty. They don't question you. They see your face, your coat, your silence, and simply open the gates. Inside, a commander waits. Not a scribe. Not a stable boy. Commander. He doesn't offer food or drink. Just asks, "Did they follow you?" You nod. He doesn't seem surprised. You hand over the sealed scroll first, then the scorched one. He accepts both wordlessly, but his grip tightens slightly on the burned satchel. "We thought that one was gone," he mutters. "You weren't meant to see that." "I didn't." You lie. He eyes you, for a long time, then nods once. "You'll be reassigned. Not thanked. Not paid. Just reassigned." You leave the room without another word. Sleep in a cot in a storeroom between 2 sacks of grain and a crate of spare bridles. The wind howls outside, but in here it's still. Quiet. You dream of scrolls falling from the sky like feathers. Of horses with no riders. Of the steppe swallowing entire stations whole. And when morning comes, you rise. Eat. Wash your face. Saddle a new horse. No one tells you where to go. You just know. Because now you are no longer just a courier. You are the one they use when things go missing. When roads catch fire. When words must travel but not be seen. And now here you are. The dust has settled. The scrolls are gone. The horses fed and quiet. You lie back, staring up at the ceiling, or the stars, or maybe just the inside of your eyelids, and let your breath slow. Let the stories unravel like old twine. Let the silence return, soft and wide. No more hoofbeats. No more sealed pouches tapping your ribs with every jolt. Just the faint memory of wind in your ears, leather under your palms, the strange comfort of being in motion. You were a messenger once. You became more. But in the end, you were always riding toward something, or away from it. The Mongol Empire slept rarely, moved constantly. But even the horses had to rest. Even the scrolls had to be read. Even you, traveler, deserve to close your eyes now. Let the fires burn out. Let the messages deliver themselves. You've earned your stillness. You've outrun the riders. You've outlived the scroll. So go ahead. Sink into the quiet. Let the world turn just for a little while without you. You've done your part. You were the invisible thread in an empire's great weave. Now you rest.